Honor mode isn't easy. In fact, only some 150,000 people out of 1.2 million that have tried it have actually beat it. But if you want to get that coveted gold D20 die and enjoy one of the most fulfilling challenges in a C RPG, then honor mode is for you. In this video today, I'm going to give you some of my big pointers to help you out in addressing honor mode so that you can finally beat it. With patch 7 on the horizon, honor mode is going to be scaled up with even more legendary actions added, so getting in now is probably the best time to do it. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by uploading the knowledge in my videos. So with that being said, what we're going to talk about in this video comes down to really pacing yourself with your gameplay. You don't have to play at breakneck speeds, you just need to prepare before every major fight, in and outside of camp, and really drill down on what every legendary action is going to do. If you played the tabletop, then you know that these actions really change the makeup of combat, and that's no different here. From there, it's about proper action economy, seeing not individual characters as a set of action and bonus actions, but rather your entire party as a bank of action and bonus actions that you can spend to line each other up. Maybe you use the bonus action of one character to knock a creature prone, that the primary action of a heavy melee character can go to town. There's a number of ways you can approach this, but the most important thing you have to remember is that slow and steady wins the race. If it takes you an hour to do a fight, then that's what it takes. We're so accustomed to watching people speedrun and min-max through stuff, you can even see it on my streams, but if that's not you, then that's fine. You play your game your way and fuck off everything else. You're going to struggle, you might even fail, but that's the journey on the path to success, which is probably like a life lesson more than anything. But that's the entire gist of this video. So if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down. You can also navigate to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. And if you are heading out and you found this video helpful, please don't forget to leave a comment, like, and or subscribe. Each one of those things is a great way to support the channel. It's entirely free. Also, if you need help with any other subject in Baldur's Gate 3, I have my entire playlist linked below and in the upper right corner. Let's get started on my guide to helping you beat honor mode in Baldur's Gate 3. Loading into the game, let's talk about our first subject, which is prepping in camp. Now, a lot of what we're going to be talking about here, this is not my first honor mode help guide video of tips, whatever the hell this is. You can see my other one linked in the upper right hand corner, and I go through in detail a lot of things like camp followers and how to set them up. But in this tip, in this kind of opening portion, a lot of your success in honor mode starts here. It starts in the camp, and it starts with setting up all those camp followers, with making sure that your characters are set up with their proper amount of gear, with their proper elixirs, if any, and also, importantly, setting up your builds. If you need to, come here, go to Withers, reset the build. And if you're playing on honor mode, money is kind of at a premium, so you can simply steal the money that you just spent with Withers away from him. He's not going to ever get mad from you. You just go ahead and pickpocket him. So obviously in this scenario, this is not an honor mode playthrough. This is my standard playthrough. But if we jump on over to this guy, what was Karlach doing naked around here? If we jump on over here, what I'm really going to show you here is that, yeah, I've got all the characters unlocked and all that action, but I also have Brina here, Brina. She's my character that's an alchemist. She's making all of my potions, she's making all of my elixirs, and I spend a lot of time in camp in between major engagements or in times when my elixirs are low, so that I can maximize the output of my characters. Now, again, this is not an honor mode playthrough, but just to show you, I'm using the elixir of viciousness to help out with some critical hits. I'm using the peerless focus elixir here to give me advantage on saving throws, being charmed, but also mainly importantly, for maintaining concentration. I'm using the elixir of the battle mage's power to give arcane acuity to Will, who is a bard or Lockadin. Nope, that's not right at all. He's a bard lock. There's a lot of things here that you really need to pay attention to. Like here, if I just type in elixir here, a lot of these elixirs are really going to help you out. Hill Giant Strength, you can get access to this right in the very first act, and this gives you 21 strength. So all of your melee characters, all of your monks, whatever it is, now they are just going to be able to punch through walls. It's like a drunk frat bro just putting holes in drywall over here with this Hill Giant Strength. Especially if you give them Tavern Brawler, that doubles their strength bonus when it comes to unarmed strikes or throwing things, right? So this is really something that you can take advantage of. I have all my elixirs really on Will, but you can see too, once you sort of progress the game a little bit, where is it? There it is. You'll get the elixir of Cloud Giant Strength, which is going to get our strength up to 27. So spending the time in the camp to set a lot of this stuff up. Even too, here, this one's really good, Elixir of Bloodlust. Once per turn when you kill a foe, you gain 5 temp hit points, which isn't too great, but the big thing is you get also an additional action. In non-honor mode, this is a gravy train that keeps going. In honor mode, it only works once. So it's a great thing nonetheless. Having an additional action in honor mode is absolutely going to help you pull through engagements because it just puts you that ahead of the curve when it comes to spiking your action economy. But really, you spend the time in the camp so that you don't have to spend as much time worrying about your characters living or dying. One big thing that a lot of people do, they'll leave one of their characters behind in camp using the warding bond, and you can do that. I just don't recommend it. We don't know if it's going to be patched away in patch 7, and it's too cheesy of a game style in my personal opinion, but you definitely can do that type of thing. But make sure you're spending enough time in camp. Make sure you're going through this with a fine-tooth comb. Think of it like when you actually play Dungeons and Dragons. You're not just simply like, all right, guys, that was a real cool adventure we just did. What do we do next? Let's go on to the next one. No, you spend a lot of time in town. You spend a lot of time kind of doing the housekeeping to make sure that your characters are all best set up for the next big incursion. Is that what I'm going to go with? The next big expedition that you're going to go on, whatever it is. So spend that time. Make this like a day 0 for your next big campaign of whatever that next big step is, whether it be act or big boss that you have ahead of you. This would also be a good time too to cast any of your spells that last until a long rest, right? Like so aid, for example, that is something that lasts until a long rest, and you can get yourself, I mean, not going to use a level 6 spell slot here unless you can really replenish it, but that's 25 extra hit points for the entire party. Using all those abilities to the best of your advantage is really going to be crucial in these kind of camp stages. What is this character right now? Does he? No, of course. Why would he have anything on him? But again, anything else that is going to help you out with lasting until long rest. I don't know why I even can't click this character. There we go. Oh, he's a monk. Okay. I know what build this is now. I thought he had my ranger ability that would give him long strider, right? That's another example of something you would cast right now. Use that time to get any of those until long rest spells active. Before we actually even talk about fights, one of the important things that you really need to do is try to set yourself up for success in any situation that you can. Before we go ahead and talk over here, we're probably going to get ourselves into a scuffle. So I'm going to take the characters that I really don't want invested in close combat and break them away from the party. So Asterion here in this particular setup is a sorcerer cleric. I'm going to put him over here. I'm going to put Shadowheart just a little bit in front because she's a spore druid. Meanwhile, I've got Lae'zel, who is an open hand monk who can kind of sit over here and intercept anything that comes that direction. And I've got my paladin over here that can deal with the actual initial fight as it happens. Setting yourself up in these initial points of an honor mode playthrough allows you to better push through harder fights. And eventually, too, we're going to jump into a conversation about legendary actions, in which case you take a look, if you could, in this time by inspecting the target you're about to fight, see if they have any legendary actions, and assess that before you actually jump into the combat. But setting yourself up, like we've talked about so many times in this video, is a big part of the success in honor mode. It's prepping yourself that you don't need to deal with a lot of mechanics. You can try to really kind of corral them into one situation for you, or set yourself up in a situation where you can defend as well as you can. With honor mode, another big tip for you is really realizing that you have to deal with your consequences. Meaning whenever you're doing a conversation and you have the option to do things, gift or deception or persuasion, you have your chances of success. Well, if you're not playing in honor mode, you can just go ahead and reroll, right? You can go ahead and quick save right before and reload. So there's no real consequence. But in honor mode, there's none of that can happen. You've got your inspirations, which are 4 free rerolls. So you have to really choose the option that you think is going to give you the most success, and you just have to be okay with whatever the result is. That's going to be a big mental hurdle for a lot of people, because I personally was reloading a lot of my failed rolls because I wanted to see how certain actions were going. This builds a lot of replayability in, and it really kind of sells you into the role play. But most importantly, it helps you to understand that another resource economy you have to deal with in honor mode are your inspirations. So maybe you reach an inconsequential thing that says, hey, roll here for a history check. It's not going to do anything that really helps the game. You just learn a little bit of lore. So you roll, you fail, you move on. So I'm going to go ahead and do a persuasion roll right here. And this is an important one. I want this to go through. I do not want to fail. It's situational. I've got a lot of really cool benefits going here. We're going to go throw guidance into this. 7 to 10 bonus. Difficulty class is 16. Let's see what happens here. I'm live streaming right now, so this could get wild. Okay, we go. A critical success. Love that. But if that was a fail, this is a time that I'm definitely going to use my inspirations. Had I failed that, I'm going to push through all 4 of my inspirations if I have to, and then I just have to deal with the result. And it's why you should be approaching every single conversation that could possibly go hostile with some modicum of preparedness. Looking at ways to best set yourself up around the conversation, like where your party members are, before walking into it, making sure you're at max health, making sure you have enough spell slots. All these things are about the repeating trope of this entire video, which is prepare yourself for everything in honor mode. Another big portion of honor mode is going to be your builds. A lot of people are going to tell you, you have to only use min-max builds. If you don't, you're not going to win. And there's truth to that, right? Like if you use nothing but min-max builds, you will win. You will win hard. In fact, you will trivialize the majority of honor mode. But I think honestly, you really don't need to. In this situation, I have the beginnings of a Bardadin with this character. In fact, character sheets. This is a level 5 paladin. That's not a Bardadin though, right? That's not unlocked. Eventually, he will become a 2 paladin, 10 sword bard, and have that banishing smite, which will be really strong, but I would wait till level 7 for that. This character will become a broken one towards the end of the game. But really, like, just having one character that is really a broken one is really all you need to create enough positive momentum in an engagement, or to have one character you can really focus on to keep all the elixirs on, all the defensive capabilities on, whatever it is, because they can be the thing that just does the trump card on a legendary action, right? They're the one that goes over there and just destroys it. We have Astarion right here as a budding Storm Sorcerer Tempest Cleric. That's going to be really strong. Right now, not so much. Spore Druid, it's funny, is weak as far as this party is concerned, but I put Lae'zel into this party. She's just a pure open hand monk. Originally, though, this is Gale, and Gale, in my playthrough, is a wild barbarian 4 elements monk. That is not a strong build. The Spore Druid is good. This Paladin, it just takes a long time to come online, but it becomes really damn good. Really, the one who's going to be carrying a lot of the big damage numbers, especially in the early game, is going to be my Storm Sorcerer Tempest Cleric. And you can get away with that. Maybe it's a pure open hand monk. Maybe it is a Gloomstalker Ranger. Maybe it is a throwing barbarian. Maybe it's a throwing monk. Maybe it's a tavern brawling monk. Whatever the situation is, really just having one absolutely broken character in your build is all you really need. You don't have to worry so much about, okay, well, I really need to spend time on making 4 individual characters that each one are super strong. I did that on my last one. And for those of you that watched my stream, you saw that I had a Bardlock who was like a 10 Lore Bard 2 Warlock. We had a throwing barbarian. We had an open hand tavern brawling monk and a light cleric. And we just shit on everything. There was not a fight that I was really worried about. In fact, most of honor mode, I was like, I don't understand. Why is this so difficult? Because and I'm sorry. We didn't have a light cleric. We had a Gloomstalker Ranger. I got confused with my main playthrough. We had a Gloomstalker Ranger. Everything was just so trivialized. The only fight that was actually difficult was Orin, and it was only because of placement, trying to get things around the battlefield. So you can go really hard in the paint, min-max it. And yeah, sure, you can trivialize the difficulty of honor mode. But really, to succeed, if you don't want to do that, you're really like, you know what, I've always just really wanted to make a half-orc wizard who does divination. Divination's actually pretty damn good, but still, my point remains, you don't really need to go that crazy in one direction to make everything really overpowered. You can just have one real good OP character, and that's all you need to really carry you through a lot of the heavier and stickier fights in honor mode. Now, depending upon how you encounter it in your melee or in your combat, you really want to pay attention to legendary actions. When patch 7 lands, we're going to have even more legendary actions to deal with. But let's go ahead and take a look at this character. I'm going to press T if you're on PC, whatever it is on console, to inspect them. And we're going to see a couple things. Well, 2 big things importantly. The first is legendary resistance. This affected entity has a +10 bonus to its next saving throw, and you can use this 3 times. So just keep that in mind. Most often, things that have legendary actions will have legendary resistance. And then we're going to come down here and see legendary action. So preparing for this is going to be crucial. This is how you approach every single honor mode fight. If you jump into combat immediately, then you just have to deal with it on the fly. You see it on a boss or whatever. It doesn't even need to be like an actual act boss or anything crucial. It can just simply be a boss. Like, oh, okay, this is not even an act boss, but we're going to deal with this one regardless. So by taking a look at this, we're going to read it out right now. It says twice per round. That's important to note, right? Like most legendary actions will have some limitation upon them, being that once it's only once per round or whatever it is, it'll have some kind of it won't just infinitely go off. So twice per round, this Inquisitor can spend a legendary action to summon a Mind Claw after he or his allies are struck. So now this tells me I have to prioritize this Inquisitor because this legendary action is not dependent upon solely this character. It's dependent upon other characters being hit. Sometimes legendary actions will say things like only when this character takes fire damage or just whatever it is, it'll be usually self-encompassed. And if you've played D&D, you're very familiar with how legendary actions work and how they really kind of put a timer on every combat or every engagement that you deal with, even if you play a lot of board games. So when the claw strikes, it may Mind Steal Link with a target not already affected by this condition. So what is that? Let's take a look. First, this is the Mind Claw here, a vestigial echo of Lakith's Ire. It's a psionic blade, basically. But Mind Steal Link, so is being drained, so received a -2 penalty to its armor class and is vulnerable to psychic damage. So dealing with a lot of Gith, we will be dealing with psychic empowerment or psionic empowerment and other forms of psychic damage, so this is not great. And this can happen, it says right here, when the claw strikes, may affect a target not already affected by this condition. So this can affect multiple targets here. So this can have our entire party have vulnerability to psychic and a reduction to their armor class if we're not careful here. So the way I would approach this is twice per round. So we need to get those two out as fast as possible. And since it can only be afflicted on one character, we don't need to worry as much about the Mind Steal Link jumping around. So basically, what we need to do is hit twice, 2 Mind Claws will come out, and then those Mind Claws, whenever they activate, they'll do their damage, and they're the ones that create the Mind Steal Link. But if we kill him fast enough, we then are freed up to then deal with the other things across the board. In this same stage, I want you to take a look at the notable features too to get a sense of what's going to happen. Because yeah, sure, we need to hit them and kill them. And twice per round, we're going to get 2 of those blades out. But we also have to deal with this. Gith parry unarmed and weapon attacks to reduce their incoming damage by 10. So this is showing us that this is going to create our very first round of combat is not going to be as successful as we want it to be. But we really want to shut this character down as fast as possible so that we maximize our capabilities to kill everything else. Because we can't ignore this legendary action. If we do in this instance, then all the other characters around are just going to spawn more and more of those psionic blades. So dealing with them ASAP is going to be the recipe for success in this engagement. But like I said, legendary actions are going to color the way you approach every engagement. So make sure that you're inspecting the main target, the boss, seeing how those legendary actions work. In this case, I have the capability to set my party up so that I can really surround him, right? Like he's surrounded by my melee characters and my ranged support and or damage dealers are in range of him and can help to shut him down fast. Do this to help ensure your success. But if you jump into the fight, just take the time. Don't jump into the fight immediately and you'll start swinging. Look at what everything can do and see how you can do it. Getting to the fight, we've talked about that legendary action. Let's now talk about our action economy. And this isn't really so much just simply, oh, use your action and primary action as best you can. But really what you want to look at is how your characters are going to interact within their turn and what they can do to set each other up. So taking a look at this, we've got 3 characters that are all going simultaneously, right? Astarion, Shadowheart, and Lae'zel. And Lae'zel has capabilities like Topple, which can knock things prone. So if things are in close combat, they now get advantage because the thing is prone. A lot of different ways that we can use characters to really help out by using their primary actions and bonus actions as an overall team economy, not just simply the individual character. So here's how we're going to approach this. Right now we have this boss. This boss is ready to parry, so we know that it's going to reduce the incoming damage of things, and we have these mind claws we're going to deal with, all these things. With ready to parry up, it's going to neutralize the amount of damage we're going to do. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to take Shadowheart. She's a Spore Druid, so she's pretty tanky. Right now she's got 63 total effective health, which is absolutely lovely. We're going to go ahead too and cast Shillelagh. It's not going to help us a ton, but every little bit of damage always helps when it comes to these boss fights. Now that's one of our bonus actions. I'm going to come over here. This now engages him, and I'm going to go ahead and do a primary attack. What is this? That's range spell attack. Okay, cool, fine. Now that got rid of ready to parry. And now we have our first claw active on the battlefield. That's totally fine. Shadowheart, for all intents and purposes, is now out for this round. Now Astarion can still have some fun. But Lae'zel, I want Lae'zel to get over here to start doing some damage. But I still want to keep her out of harm's way so that she doesn't actually engage into combat. So we want to be able to get over here without that happening. And we can probably do it. We'll probably be just fine. This probably might also incur an opportunity attack. I can jump over, and that can be just fine. But unfortunately, if I do those things, it wastes my bonus action. So I have to think of this. I'm using an open hand monk. An open hand monk does a ton of stuff with their primary or with their bonus action. So I don't want to do that. I can, though, use dash if I want. Since it's a primary action, I can try to run around this way. We also have to consider the fact that we're not going to have probably enough movement to dodge the opportunity attacks from one direction. So what we're going to do is we're going to see this. It's going to provoke an opportunity attack. It is what it is, but I'd rather take that opportunity attack than the big one from him. So that's another thing, right? Kind of navigating the battlefield to maximize getting around without actually hurting myself. And I'm going to use my primary action of stun on this archer, because this archer is pretty scary. And not enough movement, huh? Of course, why would we have enough movement in the middle of this video that I'm trying to show off things to? We can actually go ahead and come up here. And we'll dash into it. Unfortunately, that wastes our primary action, but the big one here is topple with our flurry of blows onto this target. And that gave us another one of these swords. Now, I did that to show off what I wanted to do, which was use Astarion, jack this up to level 3, and shoot here. If I had done that, the sword would have gone on to me. So this is why you have to really take a look at your action economy to see, okay, rather than just simply going, okay, here's one character, I'm going to use all their actions and primary actions. What I should have done was use the sprint, get her over here, switch back to Astarion, and I almost did it. I wanted to show off the failure here. Switch back to Astarion, use this to trigger that sword so that she can continue to do whatever she needs to do. That interrupted her capability, so she didn't get the full amount of her flurry of blows. So you can see how that actually affected things, and now she actually is going to be able to, it's going to be harder for her to hit. So this is what I mean by use your action economy to your advantage. Don't simply just look at every single character as their own encompassed sets of actions and bonus actions. Be able to use movement and then primary actions on one character, then follow up with a bonus action on another. Or maybe open up with a bonus action on one character and switch over to another to use their primary to then fill up the other on the other one. It's all about moving around your characters and trying to maintain as much action superiority as you can against your enemy, who otherwise is going to be able to melt you if you do not make sure you stay on top of it. So when playing Honor Mode, another big thing you're going to deal with is exorbitantly overpriced items. And the way to really get around this, especially in Act 1, is picking up everything that's not bolted down to the ground. And you might think, well, that's kind of frustrating, right? Well, no, you just go ahead and right click and just go ahead and examine it and assess, okay, this has 1 item weight for 14 item price. It's definitely worth it. So we're going to go ahead and just pick up an add to wares. Just do that for pretty much everything, right? The things that are not really going to be worth it, and even this thing is going to be 14 for 0.1. If you take a look at maybe this damaged vase or vase, whatever kind of person you are. You see this weighs 4 pounds or 4 ducats or 4 stones, whatever this is, for that to 1. You can pick it up, but it would be the first thing I would ditch, or like a black cauldron, which would have 20 pounds to the 1. Those are things that I just am not going to pick up. But picking up every little scrap of anything, bones, any of those little items, they add up very quickly. So let me see here. I type. You can see I just have a lot of crap here. 14, 14, 14. Some of this I haven't even put to wares yet. All these items here, add to wares. All these ones that are just, you're not going to use it in your build. You might as well just get rid of it. Unless you want to hold on to it because you're a content creator and you make a bunch of dumb videos. But still, you can see that this results in having quite a bit of money, and we're not even on Act 2 yet. You do this so that you can really maintain good money into the better portions of the game. By the time you reach end of Act 1, jumping into Act 2, you can very easily have 20, 30,000 if you pick up every damn thing. You just pick it all up and you sell it. I'm even holding too many items as it is. I hold onto way too many scrolls and too many potions. I could afford to sell like a mind reading potion. Like I always hold on to these. I'm never going to use it. Selling a potion of vaulting. I have the spells to do it, or I'm a Gith, and so is Lae'zel. There's tons of ways around a lot of that stuff. So pick up every little thing and sell it to maximize your money so you can buy the items that you want. There's a lot of really good items that you buy from vendors in this game, so don't miss out on them because you didn't have enough money. So the last tip I want to talk about here is about your gear. And you can watch a number of my build guide videos. You can go on the internet and find the best gear for whatever. Yeah, all that crap exists. But also, you really need to think about how your character exists within your party, what they do, and how you can help benefit your party with it. So take my character here, my Gith that is an Oath of Ancients Paladin, meaning he has Healing Radiance, as well as, of course, Lay on Hands, because he's a Paladin. But he has access to healing. In fact, he is really the only healer. We do have a Spore Druid, but that's not the focus. And also, I guess, a Tempest Cleric, but still, not the focus, not the point. Beside the point. Let's take this character is only level 5. All of what I'm about to show you, you get very early in Act 1. So for the healing side of things, I have the Boots of Aid and Comfort. So now it's 3 temp hit points. And at Act 1, that's enough to help out. It becomes obsolete very quickly, right? But that's 3 temp hit points. I've got this ring. Now whenever I heal someone, I'm going to help by giving them Bless. And I've got the Hellrider's Pride. So when I heal someone, they get Blade Ward, which is it gains resistance against bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage dealt by weapon attacks, specifically weapon attacks. So I have 3 items on that maximize the amount of healing I can help out the party with. Furthermore, we have the Perioptive Wound Closure, which means that whenever you are healed, you restore the max number of possible hits. So that's going to help this character personally, right? We can make it so we drink. Do I have any on me? I swear to God, I have some somewhere. Healing potions, wherever they are on my character that I can't see, and you probably are seeing them. You're going to be in comments looking, dude, they're right there. You can drink one of these, and rather than giving 4 to 10, it just gives me 10. But it also is going to give me Blade Ward. It's going to give me some temp hit points. It's going to bless me. All these great things. And if I'm outside of combat, I can pass this amulet around to people. Like, for example, Asterion, I can give it to Asterion real quick, and he can quaff one of these potions, and he'll give it back to full health without having to waste a short rest. And furthermore, I have this weapon, right? Okay, if I get down to 0 hit points, I get 12 hit points. And allies around me are going to get 6. So it's a great way to just have a lot of healing. And this is what I mean by make sure your gear is lined up to help your character, but help out the party. Even further, I have this helmet. This helmet, whenever someone attacks me, they take radiant damage. And this right here, the luminous armor, when the wearer deals radiant damage, they cause a radiant shockwave. Radiant shockwave will give radiant orbs. Radiant orbs will reduce their attack roll by 2 per turns remaining. So even just simply people hitting me causes reactions with this armor. And eventually you get the luminous gloves in Act 2. Yeah, in Act 2. And those mean basically the same effect here whenever I attack someone with a weapon, it gives them radiant orb. So I'm dishing out tons from just simply the interaction between these two items, but I'm a paladin, so I'm going to be doing smites, which are radiant damage. I have a blessing on right now, Morning Lord's Radiance, which means I do radiant damage. I have so many ways to do radiant damage. So this is what I mean. Try to think of the things that you can to stack your characters to maximize what they're doing. Even just kind of jumping over here to Asterion. Asterion is using the lightning charge stuff. So now the Jolty Vest, when the wearer takes damage while having lightning charges, the attacker must succeed a dexterity saving throw. Well, how is he getting his lightning charges? He's not a monk. Well, I've got the Spell Sparkler. When the wielder deals damage with a spell or cantrip, they gain 2 lightning charges. Wait, there's more. The Necklace of Elemental Augmentation, now it adds my spellcasting modifier to the damage dealt whenever I deal damage with a cantrip that deals acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. You know, like this one right here, which is probably the one I'm going to use the most. So this is what I mean. Line your gear up. Make it so that it helps you out the best of your ability. And lightning charges too, it's worth noting, they really help out a caster because it's just additional lightning damage, right? That's nice. You have +1 to attack rolls, which isn't awesome, but it's going to help something like something that does an attack roll. I couldn't think off the top of my head. My brain crapped out right there. But this is just an example where you can really amp up the capabilities of your character by just spending a little time, taking a look at what they have to offer, and going to town with it. Like, this character is a charisma and wisdom-based character because they are a sorcerer cleric, right? He's using the warped headband of intellect because he also has a bound intellect-based cantrip. So just these little tiny things, these little tiny nuggets that help you out here. Again, lastly, we'll just look at Lizelle. Lizelle has the graceful cloth on to give her dexterity because she's a tavern-brawling monk. This helps her out because now her dexterity and her constitution are going to go to her armor class. Wisdom and dexterity both are right there, but her strength is set to 21 because of an Elixir of Hill Giant strength. And we're taking advantage of that graceful cloth. And also we've got the Swissery boots for jumping, which is cool and all, but the gloves of belligerent skies, when the wearer deals thunder, lightning, or radiant damage, inflict 2 turns of reverb. She's a monk. She's going to have the ability to just turn on radiant damage. So this is what I mean. Try to think of the things that your characters can do and lean into them. Try to help them out to get them online. I don't recommend putting this on them. I just had it. I put it on. But again, you use these things to help the characters, and then you get a character that is very destructive without even being a necessarily OP build. You just created a lot of synergy around their armor and weapon and gear choices. So at that, it brings our video here to a close, and hopefully it helped you out. Hopefully I gave you a little bit to chew on when it comes to jumping into your first honor mode. Like I said, this is not my first video that I've done this with. I have a whole bunch of other really good tips to go into, like about vendors and about building out your camp followers and all sorts of other things. And some of those tips are going to be overlapping here. But this is now my second honor mode playthrough that I'm streaming online. Yeah, that's how streaming works. The second honor mode playthrough that I'm streaming, and there's a lot of things that just are just a little different from the way I would play the game in a non-honor mode setting. But I don't play the game so much differently that it's a different game altogether. I just have to take my time. In the previous difficulties, you can really kind of go slow and it's not a big deal. In this difficulty, you can't. You have to go slow, you have to take your time, and you have to think out the next move. You'll watch, if you watch any of my streams, you'll see that when the fight starts, I sit there and just kind of look around, get a sense for who's going what, who can do what, and I kind of chess it in my brain a little bit. Like, okay, if I did this action here and this bonus action here, what would the result be? That probably isn't 100% what I want. And you always have to think of the lowest common denominator when it comes to any of your actions. If something does 4 to 10 damage, assume it does 4 damage. Those little tiny tips are what push you into actually using your actions properly rather than underestimating or overestimating your actions and getting put shit out of luck. But go ahead and let me know in the comment section below if there are any other tips that you would offer anyone who's jumping into honor mode for the first time. This can be pretty daunting for people. And I think of the 150,000 people that have beat it, they probably think it's like a no-brainer thing, no big deal. But it can be a struggle nonetheless. So help people out. Give them your tips, give them advice. If you see someone struggling and you've got a good tip for them, go ahead and answer it. It doesn't necessarily need to be me that's giving all the good information because you guys have gone through it just as well as I have. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.